Well, good evening and welcome to This Week at Little Hills. I'm so glad to be with you again as we continue our series, 52 verses and 52 books in 52 weeks. This week we're turning to the prophet Joel to hear what he has to say about the end times when the day of the Lord comes. Let's go ahead and turn to chapter 2 right now and hear what he says. Starting in verse 28, the prophet writes, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Even on the male and female servants in those days I will pour out my spirit." We hear these words and we think, if only God would do that now. If only God would pour out his spirit. As we face challenges in life and we're not sure what to do, it sure would be nice if he would do that. But as we turn further in Scripture and we read about when this will happen, we see in Acts chapter 2 that Peter says it already has happened. On the day of Pentecost, when the disciples came out and they were able to boldly preach the gospel in different languages even, languages they hadn't known before, communicating the truth of what Jesus had done to all those gathered before them. What did Peter say about how it could happen? He turned to this passage and said, this is what God promised, and this is what God has done. And he does it for everyone. And that's what's so amazing about this, because what he did back on Pentecost is still true for us right now. It says he'll do it for those who are young and who are old. He'll do it for those who are great and those who are just servants, those who don't have any societal status. He does it for everyone who trusts in Jesus. That's what Jesus accomplishes for us. He not only saves us, but then he sends his Spirit to dwell in us. When we look at the difficult challenges we have in life, standing up for what's right, going and reconciling with people, loving our neighbors and our families, doing the things that God has called us to do, what do we see here? Well, we see that God has already poured out his Spirit that we might be those who usher in his kingdom, not as those who are doing it on our own strength, but those who do it because he is with us. Whatever challenges you have this week, you go with his Spirit with you. That's the wonder that we read here. It's not something merely for the end. God is doing more, and tomorrow night on Alive, we're going to be thinking more about what God will do in the end with the resurrection and restoring our bodies. But before we jump to that, let's remember that God is doing amazing things and is there for us today. Well, I do hope that you'll join me tomorrow night as we continue to think about what God has accomplished for us. 7 p.m., we're going to be looking at the resurrection of the body. It's such a wonderful subject. If you know someone who's been struggling with the resurrection, someone who's wrestling with the gospel, consider inviting them to join with us tomorrow night. Maybe you can talk with them afterwards. It's a wonderful time to come before our God and hear the good news of the gospel. If there's any way I can be praying for you this week, if you have any questions or comments, any way that we can turn to the scriptures together, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me an email at the email address on screen, leave a comment below. And also, as we continue to do this ministry and as we look forward to more ministry as Little Hills looks to an in-person launch later this year, you can help us by following us on social media, sharing our posts. We're so grateful when you help serve the gospel with us. We get to serve together by sharing the things that we're putting out. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed week, and I'll see you again, hopefully tomorrow, and then next week.